All right, guys, back again for CABAL. Back again. Back again. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? What's up? Anything new happened while I was gone? Anything new happen? Anything exciting? Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Thank you to everybody here. This was it's a hell of a ride, and I'm gonna share some thoughts on this stuff. I gotta do it because I've been tweeting a bit. I've been tweeting in an area I shouldn't be tweeting in. As a guy, I shouldn't be tweeting in it. But because I what I was doing the other day is, and I felt this way prior to the birth, but the birth confirmed all of this stuff, and I'll give you guys some of the deets here. But I think it's important just to talk about some of the stuff. It's important. Okay, it's important, and the reason it's important is because we don't have a lot of truth about this out there. We don't have truth about the birthing process, and everybody thinks of it as such a very heavily intervened upon. That's supposed to be heavily intervened upon. And look, I don't want to make any women who watch. Hey, Salmon, thank you, thank you. I don't want to make any women watching this stuff feel like, oh, this sucks, blah blah blah. Like, you can't say this stuff. You're a guy. I want to actually make a point here, which is that modern obstetrics is very patriarchal. Okay, it's very much, in a certain sense, anti the woman's body. It's very much some sort of externalizing. We know better. So actually, as a man calling this out, I'm actually calling out the patriarchy, guys. I'm calling out the patriarchy. It's probably the only area. It's probably the only area that I actually really feel strongly about men kind of fucking up and not being really. They should not be very involved with it, because indigenous traditions across the world understood how to give birth, and that's the women's purview. Women understand that. And I I don't understand. Now you have all these women, these empowered women, who are outsourcing their body, their choice, but they're outsourcing their body to some white cloak, some white coat. And I don't get it personally. I don't get it. And so I just want to make a couple points with this really briefly. I can maybe do a separate Periscope talking about all this stuff, but most of the vast majority of births can be delivered naturally, aka no medication whatsoever. No medication. Okay? My wife's birth was very fast. Okay? I was, shit posting. I was shit posting 1 minute. Salmon. It's not more important. You fucker, Salmon. No, we got to talk about this, guys. We got to talk about this. We're gonna talk about the CABAL for a while, We're gonna talk about the CABAL. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But I gotta say this stuff. I gotta say it. It was a very fast birth. Okay, very very fast. We're talking about Salmon's still worried about his money. Salmon, you're gonna get that money. Don't worry about it. Basically, we had done all this practice stuff. We've been doing all this practice for it for months. Been taking classes since early October, and obviously reading up on all the kind of details and statistics on natural birth. I was fortunate enough to be in a family where my mom was a early rebel, so to speak, with breastfeeding. Yeah, the CABAL is distributing all the Pitocin. Well, the thing is, like, all these things give them money, and it really, like, you should see it. I mean, I have these interactions with some of these doctors, actually, frankly, med students. Just the arrogance is out of control. The absolute arrogance of it. It's like, oh, well, haha, it's no big deal. It's like they just say that about everything. They just say that they can just intervene. Well, that's the thing. But you have to also watch out for a lot of women, because women who don't have a natural birth, sometimes they feel like it makes them into a bad mom because they didn't have a natural birth, and that they want to justify things. They want to justify themselves, and not wanting to sort of deal with the pain or whatever. But I just want to make the point here. First off, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do, but you can't just, like, disregard facts because of that, because it hurts other women. Most of the biggest natural birth advocates went through unnatural births before. They went through medicated births. Yeah, I know it's about a man having an opinion, but my point before, which I just said, is that this opinion came from men. I'm attacking men. They're defending the patriarchy. They're defending the patriarchy, not me. I'm attacking it. I'm trying to take it down. I'm trying to give power back to women who understand their bodies and allowing them to work through something very natural. And I don't probably better not to say unnatural birth. Probably better to say medicated or intervened upon birth. So obviously on the extreme there's cesarean sections, but you also have inductions where they basically give you a drug called pitocin, which is synthetic oxytocin. And oxytocin, it has like the love hormone, but it makes a woman's uterus contract, which helps to push a baby out. So you give them pitocin, they start the birth basically. But this myth that exists that if you have it wasn't a home birth, it was at a birthing center. So I'm going to tell you this stuff. So, okay, the funny thing about all these inductions, they've stopped doing them as much because guess what? All of a sudden, all the babies were going to neonatal intensive care units. The NICUs were filled. No one could figure out why. They were rushing the babies because they kept saying, "Oh, well, we want to have the baby early. Want to have it at this point." Doctors want to clear their schedule before the holidays, so just have the baby now. It's no big deal. Sorry, not a believer in this stuff. And the birthing center is so there's no doctors at the birthing center. There are nurses. There's a nurse practitioner and a couple nurses and midwives mostly. It's really midwives who I think are really nurse midwives, so they're trained in both. And you have a room, we have a bed, you have a bathtub. If there's a problem, the hospital's right next door, so you can go right out of that, and you can go to the hospital if there's an issue. But no vaccines given up. Well, you can say no, and we did say no. The only thing they really pushed was vitamin K. That's a whole separate complicated topic. I didn't get to do exactly what I wanted with the vitamin K shot, but I try to be evidence based with these things. So vitamin K is kind of like the idea behind vitamin K is that there's like a very small amount. We're talking like 4 or 5 out of 300,000 babies will have brain hemorrhaging and die. And the argument is that vitamin K protects it from happening. And that seems to be the case. I don't see good evidence against that. The question is, what does the vitamin K do? Okay, first off, what is the likelihood of a baby getting the hemorrhage under normal circumstances, and what does the vitamin K do that's negative? Because babies don't produce vitamin K early on, and they don't get it in breast milk. So what we were going to do is we were going to do the oral vitamin K because we figured that was the least harmful option of the three. The three being a vitamin K shot they just have there on hand that have preservatives like aluminum. So it's basically like vaccine issues. Then you have a vitamin K shot without preservatives, but that's still not clean. It's got a bunch of other shit in it. And then you have the vitamin K drops. Now, I had ordered the vitamin K drops, but the baby came a couple days earlier than we thought it was going to come early, but even earlier than expected. And so no vitamin K drops were there. But fortunately, my wife is much more better at planning than I am. And she had gotten a prescription for the non-preservative shot. So we had that on hand because they don't have it at the birthing center. And so we gave the baby that. Penelope is her name. It still has some nasty stuff in it, so I'm not psyched about it. But this is a tough one. This is one of those ones it's a tough decision. I to be honest, never really had a clear. I think we won't find out till later on. But the problem is with the vitamin K is that it really thickens the blood a lot, and I have a feeling that that's not ideal for the baby. No, she wasn't. And actually, guys, I had to drive. I had to reschedule a lot of calls this morning because there's only one doctor that I could all the doctors that would not vaccinate the child were like an hour and 15 minutes away, especially ones that took insurance. We have good insurance, so I prefer to use it if I can. So we drove like an hour and 15 minutes just to get like that check off. So she doesn't have to get a vaccine for a sexually transmitted disease. So so it's a little frustrating just trying to fight the system, but I'm hopeful for the future. I really know that I have to protect her from that stuff. She's very special. Hey, people were, I got some messages telling me that she's a life path 33 numerology, right? December 17th, 2020. That's a 33 life path. So that means she's going to be a grand master. I think I mentioned that I had some very vivid dreams about her. Um, well, Salman, a doctor can't force a baby to have a vaccine, although they will give they will give the baby the vaccine if you're not paying attention. Okay, so they will assume they can give it to her, and they will give it without. You could like be like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Oh, we're about to give her the vaccine." So you would have to intervene. You have to be on it. Um, the other thing, though, the other thing is that um, they don't force you to have it, but then they won't see your child. They won't see your child because they will say that, for instance, my baby not getting a hepatitis B vaccine makes all the other babies in the office at risk of getting a sexually transmitted disease. So, you know, they don't feel safe with my baby potentially giving all their other babies sexually transmitted diseases. So that's one of the reasons why. That's one of the reasons why, it makes a lot of sense. No, I kind of get it a little bit more with the live viruses, just a little bit. Things like measles and whatnot. But the point is that these vaccines are supposed to work for all this stuff, so you shouldn't really care if that's the case for your kids. Maybe you could care for older people, but you shouldn't really care for your kids if they got the vaccine. No one's explained that one to me. But look, um, so my wife, she went into labor very, very quickly, very, very quickly. Just kind of happened. We had been doing practices before, and all of a sudden it was like she felt like two contractions, and then she went in the transition. So just to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown, because I didn't know it, I'm not going to get too graphic with you, but labor has three stages. First stage is the uterus contracting to open up the cervix. Okay. Second stage is pushing. Third stage is like 2 seconds. It's just the placenta coming out afterwards. Really, it's first and second stage. My wife basically didn't have first stage labor. Now you have this thing called transition, which is when, well, yeah, that's what happened. So she had two contractions, and then her water broke, and then she went into transition. And transition is like one of the hardest parts of labor. It's really scary. And we had a big snowstorm here, so I had to drive. So within like 30 minutes or something, we were trying to see like what was going on. She was going really fast. I was trying to time the contractions. The water break means when the amniotic sac containing the baby breaks. So it's not a risk to the baby. A lot of doctors will try to pressure you to have the baby immediately, but your body continues to produce amniotic fluid. Yeah, it's like it's water just comes out. It basically pours out. Um, and so after it was like the contractions were getting really fast, and I called the midwife, and it was not textbook labor. Let's put it that way. And so we threw everything in the car. About an hour drive in the snow, in a snowstorm. And I had kind of prepped for this before. We had a whole bed laid out in the van for her so she could kind of labor back there. My mom came with us, and she was basically like pushing in the car. I mean, we got to the birthing center, and within 20 minutes, she had the baby, basically. It was like 6 pushes at the birthing center, and she had the baby. So it was really fast, really fast. Um, Zero issues whatsoever. Zero issues whatsoever. And look, every woman's different. Every pregnancy is different. And they don't always have to be fast, but I can tell you this. My wife really took care of herself, okay? She ate healthy throughout the pregnancy. She was doing yoga and stretching. She was doing all sorts of things to, you know, we did practicing. She was really trying to work with her body throughout this stuff. And she got adjusted by a chiropractor, a good chiropractor, and that shortens labor because it gets your pelvis in better position. But the thing is, like, this myth and this is like this is the common thing. I mean, some natural births are harder than others. Okay, some natural births are harder than others. But when women talk about like the painless birth, well, what actually happens is that there are cascade effects from this. Okay, there's cascade effects. a lot of times what happens when you get pain medication, when you get an epidural, is that, well, first off, that drug goes into the baby, it goes into the baby, right? And that affects the baby. That makes the baby lethargic when it's born. But it also, it's kind of like you push off the pain to later. So there's a much harder recovery. There's a much harder recovery. My wife is doing great, you know, out and about, moving. I mean, we're not having to do too much because you do have to recover. Your uterus has to get back in the position and everything. But what I mean is that, like, she will be 100% like she never had a baby within 2 weeks. And right now she's just, I mean, she's fine. She's really fine. And that's not the case for mothers who have intervened births. And there's all sorts of potential risks and side effects and stuff like that. And the labor takes longer because you're not working with your body very often. Because when your uterus wants to push, if you've had an epidural, you're not pushing with it. You're just kind of there and resisting, so it takes a longer amount of time. So I wanted to say that stuff. I'm not shaming anybody, but I strongly encourage men to do their research, to women to do their own research with this stuff, and to exercise informed consent. Informed consent. Okay. I don't like people telling me this is my choice when they weren't informed. If you make a choice on these things after you've been informed, actually, babies do cry at birth, and it's very good. My daughter has great lungs. But she's a good kid. She's not like crying all the time. She actually got a really cute cry, so I don't even mind it at all. But when she does cry, it's like it's nice and it's nice and she's loud. The doctors are happy to hear it. She's got perfect APGAR test, everything like that. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. But yeah, guys, informed consent, and I'm gonna give you guys a book recommendation. Okay, I'm gonna give you a book recommendation. Natural Childbirth, the Bradley Way, or the Bradley Method. You don't have to do the Bradley Method. There's a lot of other good methods out there. Some do hypnobirth, whatever. But this was a really good book. Susan McCutcheon, really good book. It's really scientific and really practical, and just gives you an idea of like all the sort of pitfalls and issues you have to deal with the medical community. It's not hating on doctors either. There's a lot of good doctors, but a lot of doctors are technicians, and they act like technicians, and the system is really designed to incentivize this sort of hyper controlled behavior. We weren't even 100% satisfied. The nurse midwives at two junctures. One, they maybe had a good reason. The other time, they didn't have a good reason. I don't know why they did it. They just rushed things a little bit, which was much more painful as a result. But we did do the Bradley Method. We did do the Bradley Method. Snake oil immersion. What? I don't even. Yeah, there's fear of litigation and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess it feels pretty natural. I don't know. It feels pretty natural. Like you can tell when she's hungry. I'm kind of still figuring out the burping thing, but she was 6 pounds 14 and a half ounces. She wasn't that. She was she's very long. She's like 21 and a half inches long. She's tall and thin like her mom, and so yeah, she's great. She's great. So thank you. Thank you. I appreciate everything. So I want to just real quick before I am happy. I just want to say this. I am happy. I don't. I know my wife is doing a lot. Like, God bless mothers. I mean, you don't really see it until you see it. The amount of work that goes in, especially with especially when you're doing especially when you have to do all the breastfeeding and everything, and trying to keep weight up. And look, it can get sore. Let's put it that way. It's work. You don't get a ton of sleep, but I don't really feel like I feel normal. I don't really feel like anything crazy happened to me. It feels like natural. It feels like it was I was ready for it. And Penelope is the name of Odysseus's wife in the Odyssey, right? So Penelope is known for being So it's a Greek name. It's a classic name, and it's known for I guess it's kind of like chastity and devotion, because Penelope never cheated on Odysseus while he was away at sea over those 20 years. So she's gonna be a good girl, right? She's not gonna be a slut, you know. She's gonna be a good girl. We're gonna call her Nellie. Actually, we're calling her Nellie. So, what's good to do for men's health when you're trying to conceive? Uh, I mean, well, that's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, generally things that are going to raise your testosterone and stuff. So like zinc, eggs, etc. Oysters and eggs. Yeah, I'm going to keep them away from you guys. You degenerates on my channel. Probably going to be like 50 at that point, looking for an 18-year-old. All right. Gotta do real quick the wine. There's not going to be a big expose here. I broke out a special bottle. It was a bottle that my wife and I got. Now, maybe you guys who have read some of my old um, blog posts, I told a story about the Illuminati wine chateau. Okay, Illuminati wine chateau, and how there was this crazy situation there. One armed girl. Some of you guys might remember it. Guy got beat up at the bar, but basically the guy who this is the guy I'm referring to was our tour guide, and he worked at this vineyard, and it was very clear from the tour that this was like Illuminati, complete Illuminati. Guy was like a billionaire. Was like a billionaire. And Salmon, I do love my wine thing. Everybody's got to have a fucking like hobby. Everybody's got to have something that costs money and is frivolous. Some people like Lambos. I don't care about cars. I care about wine. That's mine. Okay, I'm sharing it with you. This is my waste of money hobby. But so I got a bottle there, Il Barone, and so I figured it would be fitting. It would be fitting for me to open this bottle when my wife can finally have some wine again. And it was a bottle we got together, and I think it would be very fitting to open this bottle during the end of Pisces, because guys, probably the end of the Cabal era, because guys, we are probably going to do the next Periscope. We'll probably do it on Monday. Probably do the next one on Monday. So this will be our last one in Pisces. All right, this will be our last one in Pisces. So here's the bottle, Il Barone, the Castello di Amoroso. Really fucking degenerate guy. Really fucking degenerate, and super creepy. Maybe I'll tell the story another time. But there's some blog post. I opened this 3 hours early. It smells fucking incredible. It smells incredible, guys. So good. That those fucking Cabal people, they know how to make wine. I gotta tell them. They know how to make wine, the Cabal. I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss that about the Cabal. Gotta save all their bottles. All right. Guys, I'm sorry if the feed's been cutting out. Look, I want to talk about a couple things. All right. Let's talk about some of these things here that's been going on. I'm just looking through my list. Looking through my list. All right. So is everybody disappointed? How are people feeling? I want to get a morale check. Here. I know, Salmon, are you doing okay? You doing okay, buddy? Sidney Powell at the White House last night, and allegedly to the back channel, asked to be special counsel. Now, I don't know if that was supposed to be leaked. There's a lot of big stuff going on. I think we're all pretty worn out. From this, guys. I think we're all pretty worn out. We want action, right? We want action. It's one of those things that you have an army that's ready to fight, and then you kind of feel at a certain point like your general is not going to fight, and that starts to affect the morale a little bit. I'm feeling it. But everything has a purpose, okay? Everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. I heard today, and there's a really great channel, Simon Parks, really great channel. He's a British guy. I think Romeo was the one here who recommended me to him. Really phenomenal intel. This guy, Simon Parks, he's got some good intel. He's a very trustworthy person, connecting consciousness. And he basically said DNI stuff, at least most of it's not going to come out till January. Which sucks. I know we want it now. He also said the military operation is already underway, though, and that it began on the 18th. Okay, and he has confirmed that it's going to be going to tribunals, and that he said the whole thing with SCOTUS was that before it was under Article 2, and now we're going to Article 3. Okay, Article 3, which deals specifically with treason. And that the Supreme Court will have to review it, and then that's how we get directed to military tribunals. Also heard confirmation that the indictments are legit, that Durham and those indictments are legit. Trump had want people to come to D.C. on the 6th. Now, there's a lot of stuff here about, what's the cabal going to do? Simon also talked about there being this sort of green-screened inauguration for Biden. And he also mentioned, this kind of stuff about the UN invading, but also dismissed it, for obvious practical considerations, that there's no fucking way that anybody can invade the United States. But we are set up for martial law. The 82nd Airborne is mobilized, it's already war ready, and we've been pre-positioning equipment everywhere. We've been seeing that there are these various police departments around the country that are simply not doing their constitutional duty. They're under the payroll. I wonder how they're going to feel with the 82nd Airborne there, right? I wonder how they're going to feel with the military mobilized. So that's the thing. They would do a fake inauguration. No, the Supreme Court wouldn't do it. They would do it like green screened in a studio, like the moon landing. I think it's going to take place everywhere. But it's just really tough to understand the timing on these things. Everything, there was this talk earlier about like any date that we have that we know about. I almost feel like at this point can't be the date. I feel like it can't be, because there is too much disinformation that's going on here. And Trump is trying to get everybody, he's trying to throw everybody off. Like, I always thought the "My Fellow Americans, the Storm is Upon Us" was a really cheesy tweet. It was a really, really cheesy tweet. But, honestly, I don't think we're going to get it. I think they're going to keep waiting for it. Meanwhile, there's going to be special ops knocking on their door. It's already happening. I do think that we're going to get some big drops on Monday. I do think that we got massive drops this past Monday. And this Monday is the fucking solstice. 0 degrees Aquarius, new age. Once we get into Aquarius, the energy is going to be so overwhelming. I mean, I think everybody at this point, if we're all, well, the Joint Chiefs are not, it's very interesting when you look at the chain of command. The Joint Chiefs are not connected to what's going on necessarily. I don't know if that's because some of the Joint Chiefs are compromised, but the Secretary of Defense and what's going on with the military is completely separate from the Joint Chiefs. So I don't know how that plays out. It's really hard to know what is what. Exactly. It's really hard to know what is what. And guys, I have to tell you, and I think that if there has been one shift that's occurred since my kid, there's been one shift that's occurred, it's been that I am so much more detached from having to get every single like blow by blow detail. Like at this point, it's just like, I know it's collapsing. I can feel it. Everybody here is so tired and bored of it because we're not done with the election. We are done with Pisces. We're done with this entire past age. We're finished with it. We're tired of the fakeness. We're tired of the bullshit. We're just completely exhausted at listening to it. And so the collective energy is so much demanding a destruction of this entire system. It doesn't matter. No one cares about SCOTUS anymore. No one cares. They just want it gone. Any means necessary. So she pre-planned it. She timed it to be here. I thought that maybe she would come on the 21st. We were prepared for the 21st. Her due date was the 26th. We were prepared for the 21st. But she came when the moon was in Aquarius. Paul's going to be doing a reading on her, so I can reveal some of that stuff. So, and like I said, 33 life path, I don't know what the fuck, whatever. I don't know numerology like I know astrology. So, Salmon, basically what I'm trying to say is that, because I know other people may be watching this, Salmon verbalizes a lot of what other people are thinking, which is why I appreciate Salmon. Appreciate all of you, by the way. I appreciate all of you. But this is really like, we are done with this prior age. I know I'm trying to go all Anglo right now. I got the whole thing. It's like they got the pants too. I'm all Adidas tracksuit up in here. I'm a Muppet right now. Look, it's done. Okay, it's done. It's done. We all feel it's done. We just don't know how and when it's going to happen. And you have to just have faith, because everything, I think we're all tired of it. And I think that's actually what had to happen. I think we had to get tired a little bit of the drama. Because being involved with the drama is being kind of tied to 3D. Like, I care about all this stuff. I care about the blow by blow, blah, blah. Like, I just don't. I don't as much anymore. I mean, I do. Like, it's exciting. But now it's just like, I'm kind of ready to start building, I'm kind of ready to get my money, obviously, but I want to start building. I want to start fucking building a new world. I'm tired of these people. I'm sick of them. We're all tired of them. Honestly, we just want to kill them. I'm not joking here. Those people just want to kill him. They want to kill him. They want him out of here. They just don't want him around anymore. Tired of dealing with them. Tired of listening to their lies 24/7. And so we know it's going to happen. And I think we're all just looking forward to, not that you should be enjoying another person's suffering, but let's look at them as demons. A lot of these people are demon infested, and I just want their world to end. And so I look forward to it. We're going to see what happens the coming weeks, but I feel great. I mean, guys, I feel great. There's no chance I'm going to DC on the 6th. And the reason for that is entirely due to the fact that of my daughter, right? Now, we have plans to go to the inauguration. Simon Parks said today, he said, don't come down to the inauguration. So that's one of those things where, I don't know, a lot's going to happen. So I'll make an audible. But we've had that hotel booked for a while. I think at the very least, I have to go down. I might be, by that point, my wife should be in a pretty good shape. I gotta go down for that. I think I gotta go down for that. But maybe not the place to bring a newborn. So, yeah, UK is also, I've been seeing the UK wake up quite a bit. There's been a lot of street fighting going on. I would recommend anybody who can go on the 6th. I would do it. Your president is asking you to go. So go. If you can do it, go. I would go. I would be there in a fucking second. There'd be no doubt I would be there. But I have now this other responsibility, and it's just too soon. If he had called me to go down, if he had said come down to the inauguration, I would go down. That'd be the 20th, right? There's another 2 weeks. So this was one of the things that Simon Parks talked about that they could do, is that they could, because the thing is, if they were to try to go to the Capitol to get inaugurated, they'd be arrested after what comes. So they might try to green screen inauguration and project it to the world as if he had been inaugurated. Right. So we're just gonna see what happens. I mean, guys, there's so much shit. There's just so much shit going on, and look, we can still have fun with it. We can still have fun, but I think that what we are learning across the board is to detach from the 3D. Okay, detach from the 3D. Detach from the 3D. Detach from this blow by blow stuff. Detach from the polarity. We'll get our money back because there will be an accountability, but focusing on trying to do this sort of stuff, like focusing on like I need my money right now. I mean, I know Salmon maybe needs his money right now, but Jacinda's a bitch. She's a dumb bitch, and she's a cabal through and through. So I mean, she can go fuck herself, as far as I'm concerned. She's the exact same kind of disgusting, smarmy archetype as many of these women who have been put up in as governorships, Secretary of States. We have the Secretary of State of Michigan, the Governor of Michigan. They're just evil. They're evil bitches. Honestly, they're evil bitches. So we just have to detach from it. That's the lesson. The lesson here is to detach from it. And I don't feel any worry whatsoever about the money. First off, I don't have any worry because I know there's trolls who come in here. I'm fine anyway. Like really, I'm fine. I financially, I didn't lose my savings in the end. Um, right now I take out about 100K out overall, and then I'm covered completely. And I'll make and worst case scenario, I don't get the money on technicality. 3 months, I get it back. Within 3 months, 3 to 4 months, I'll have that money made back. It's really not a big deal. It's really not a big deal for me, right? For me, it's not a big deal. I'm not. And look, I promise you guys. I promise you guys this. We're getting the money back. No one is going to want to be associated with that. They're not going to want to be associated with it. The worst case scenario is Predictive goes out of business. That's the worst case scenario, is that Predictive goes out of business. But who cares? Who cares, really? I mean, we'll still get money. We'll get every last bit that we can out of them. So I appreciate you saying that. So don't stress. No one is going to want to touch it. No one's going to want to touch it. And the way I look at it is it's just like the premature Biden celebration. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's the usual people trying to celebrate prematurely because if they don't celebrate now, they're not going to, like, let's be real here. If they do not celebrate now, they're not going to be able to celebrate. The weekend after the election, I was in New York and I saw people like kind of happy because Biden won. And I was like, let's give them this. Let's have them enjoy themselves because it's not going to be pleasant down the road. Enjoy yourself now. Celebrate now. Right? Celebrate now. So it's already won. Kamala still hasn't resigned her Senate seat. So what else do we have here to talk about? We had here's a good one to talk about. We got a good one to talk about here. Gotta get more of this Il Barone. This is good wine. It's fucking Illuminati wine, man. So fucking good. Best bottle of wine I've had in a long time. Holy shit. Guys, I trash California. I trash California wine. I trash New World wine a lot because the cheap stuff isn't good, but man, is the high end stuff good. And this isn't even like, I think this bottle was somewhere between $60 and $90. I don't remember exactly. And we've had it downstairs for the last 2 years. 2013, been aged for a while. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. It has more legs on it. Oregon Pinot Noir, fucking amazing. Great stuff. Great stuff. So we had the image of the Georgia governor with his daughter smiling at the at the Christmas ball, right? That was a fun one. Look, they give us this stuff for a reason. Okay, they give us this stuff for a reason because they can't tell us directly what's going on. They can't tell us directly what's going on, but they can send us things to keep our morale up and to let us know, look, everything's going according to plan. Okay, stupid people got irate over it because they don't like. Come on, come on. Like, who was gloating there? Smile for the camera. You know that's what fucking happened, right? Hey, Governor Kemp, smile for the camera. His daughter's boyfriend, like the girl who was there, her boyfriend was blown up. And by the way, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, investigator who was looking at the death committed suicide, right? Committed suicide. Classic story. Classic story. Okay? So, hey Kemp, why don't you come to the Christmas party? Oh no, let's go and step into this room for a minute. Let's just have a conversation. It's great to see you. So here's what we got on you, and you're going to be executed. We are going to execute you. So how about you flip now and you get life in prison? Maybe we won't send your daughter to prison. Maybe she'll be protected. Maybe she'll only get a couple of years. No doubt he flipped. And I can tell you guys, I can read these people well, and maybe I'll be wrong, but because we're all speculating right now. But I swear I knew that the Secretary of State was the one who was going to get killed, and the governor was not. The governor was, you could tell he was not as far in. He was not as far in as the Secretary of State, and he had made some bad decisions, and you could tell he kind of wanted out of it, but he was terrified. He's a coward, basically, is what I'm trying to say. He wasn't in inner circle. He was a coward. So, yeah, I think he flipped. And I think that was what the tell was, that he flipped. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. See what happens. Sick of these people. And I'm not going to predict any more details on these things because there's no point. If I want to be honest with you guys, the reality is that I don't know, because Q and that team, they are using quantum computing. Okay? They are using quantum computing to decide what to do. And I'm a smart guy, and I can understand when moves are being made. I'm not smarter than a quantum computer. I can't. Yeah, first off, people have to ask, why was Kemp invited? You think that Trump would invite Kemp unless he had a special plan for him there? That's a good point. He could be. It could have been photoshopped. I'm not good at that stuff. I don't know. People pointed out that there's a lot of similar background between Flynn and Powell and a couple other people, and that basically that they're in a safe position. There's a lot of death threats. There's a lot of assassination attempt stuff going on here. To elaborate on quantum computing, so a regular computer is going to scan for all sorts of mathematical possibilities. A quantum computer scans multiple timelines. Okay? It scans multiple timelines. And so what does that mean? Well, when you scan multiple timelines, what you get is this is what's going to happen. So if this occurs, this is what will happen. At least at like a 95% probability interval. Simon Parks breaks it down well, yeah. I don't know. From my understanding, Simon said that it's what's guaranteed to happen, and my understanding of it is that that's not exactly technically correct, because there are multiple timelines, so it's kind of like a timeline probability. But effectively speaking, you start to understand, as you go further out, the probability declines. As you get closer to it, the probability increases. So Simon said it has about a 6-month certainty ratio. He said it works for 6 months. So I think the reconciliation here is that he's saying within 6 months, perhaps the timeline gets locked in. Further afield from that, maybe it's a probabilistic thing. He did say it's more close. Yeah, because that's the truth. It does get, like, I can feel it. Okay, I can feel the timeline. When we've talked about this, I can feel when the timeline consolidates. I can feel it. but I can't describe it like a quantum computer. I don't know what's consolidating. I just know that I don't know the details of what's consolidating. I can just feel, yeah, there's a consolidation here. This option is no longer there. A year ago, pretty much a year ago today, I was with a very good friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who will be the godfather to my child. He doesn't know it yet. So if he's watching this, he gets a little precursor. He knows who he is. But he's probably not watching, so I'll be able to tell him tomorrow. But we were hanging out. We live in different places, and so we used to live in New York together. We moved, and every couple of months, usually once or twice a year at this point, we'll meet up. We'll go on like a long trip. And he's super high vibration, really just incredible person, in the know. Um, we knew each other in past lives, very very close friends. And God, where was I going with this? Where was I going with this? I love Mark Bover. It's not Mark. It's not Mark Bover. Where was I going with this? I actually lost my train of thought. What's the fucking point of this whole thing? The quantum computing. What was the point of all this stuff? Oh, a year ago, I was arguing with him, and I was basically telling him it's not Goldman. You guys don't know him. He's on Twitter, he's not on Twitter as a major presence. He's a small account. He's not a small person in real life, but he's a small account on Twitter. He him and I got into an argument. We were drinking, and I was basically like, about the United States not making it, and that we would be fragmenting. Because a year ago, we weren't locked in. We weren't locked in. But we became locked in a couple months after that. We became locked in. And I think actually around the time of COVID, like about 3 months later, we got locked in. And you could feel it. You could suddenly feel like that wasn't going to happen anymore. That was a possibility, but it wasn't going to happen now. And so when I hear people talk about, like, we're going to have civil war, this is going to occur, I'm like, it's not going to happen. There's no timeline possibility for it to happen anymore. It's you can't ever say no possibility, but you can say 0.000000000000000. You know what I mean? It's like it's not possible, basically. So that's where we're at. So yeah, quantum computing. What I thought, I have to tell you guys this: Simon Parkes confirmed that one of the two big quantum computers. He didn't say this, but I believe this is the case, that Alice is controlled by the cabal, and that Trump and his team have a separate one. And I think that the Trump and his team's one has been spruced up. Okay, I think they've been spruced up a bit. But if you guys remember Majestic, who no longer exists as an account, Majestic was really deep intel. Okay, Majestic was very clearly something substantial. Okay, and Majestic 12 talked a lot about Alice in Wonderland. Q talks about it as well. But yeah, it's the cabal has been using their own kind of quantum computing. I don't think it has the same reach. It's very tough to know for certain. But there's at least two big quantum computers. And the one that the cabal's used for a very long time is Alice. And are they still using her? I don't know. Maybe they lost access to her. I'm not sure. But guys, ask me some questions. I don't have. I think we're all waiting here. We're just waiting, sitting here waiting on shit, to happen. What else to say? Quantum is alien tech. That's a good question. So, quantum is, how do I put this? Yes and no. I mean, maybe it was developed by aliens who have been on this planet, but we are going towards a quantum world. We're going to a quantum financial system. Let me tell you something about the economic system right now, okay? How it works. This is important. This is an important thing. Let's talk about the economic system and how it works. Yeah, it's connected to Nasara Jasara. Okay, so I don't know about the details of Nasara Jasara if that's going to occur in that sense. The first thing is that the first thing is that all the money from these fuckers is going to be confiscated. Okay, all the money from these fuckers is going to be confiscated. So we are going to have plenty of money. Okay, people are like, "How's Betfair going to pay the money?" Oh, believe me, there's going to be money to pay for it. Okay, there will be money to pay for these things. There's easily $100 trillion. Yeah, 16 trillion, maybe. I've heard that. But there's at least, let's say, there's $100 trillion that are like off book. They're off book. Remember, we thought J.P. Morgan was a super wealthy person, effectively multi-billionaire. Turned out that his estate was only owned like 13 or 17% by him. The rest was owned by the Rothschilds. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Carlos Slim, these are not the people who run your world. They are tools for the people who run your world. That's it. They're the tools. The people with the most net worth in the world are behind the scenes. Those families have an enormous amount of money, more than you can comprehend. And that's why they can manipulate things, because before they could do intrigues, but their initial intrigue was to get control of the financial system, because once they got control of the financial system, they could do fucking anything. All right? And that's why the sort of Federal Reserve and World War One was not the beginning of the cabal, but we could say it was the end of any sort of real battle with the cabal. After that, it became once that occurred, they were no longer fighting for supremacy. They were now in supremacy, and we were fighting against them. And that's why they were able to kill JFK with impunity. Okay, so we're seeing the backlash to that. The cabal's been around for such a long time. Really, you could argue it goes back prior to Jesus if you want to, but certainly back to Charlemagne. All the situation with the Khazars. There's a huge amount of history here that you can do, and you can try to figure it out. But they didn't start to get a foothold until the Napoleonic Wars, and they didn't get the upper hands until World War One, Federal Reserve, that period. Okay, so big stuff with that. Big stuff with that. Now, let me see here. They didn't always have, they were developing these things, and so there was a lot of more alien influence that occurred in the 50s, etc., and there's a lot of complicated stuff here, like with the Orion Wars and refugees from this. There were extraterrestrials on this planet, and I want you guys to remember that most, or many at least, extraterrestrials look like us. Okay? They look like us, but their DNA is activated. Their DNA is activated, and also their DNA is somewhat different. But they look like us. I was telling you guys for a long time to watch Stargate, because Stargate, you have to read between the lines on some things, but they disclose it all. They disclose it all. Most ETs are just humans that have a higher level of DNA activation. They can do more things. Our DNA is incredibly powerful. I've heard people break it down in different ways. Simon Park says that it has to do with, it's like an energy DNA. I've heard people talk about it. Literally, it's just that the physical DNA was scrambled, and that's the reason it's junk DNA, and that we reactivate it. Maybe it's both. I don't know. But the reality is that the energetic fields we're entering into are opening up our DNA, and that the better your perception, like, this is the thing. I have people who like argue with me, and I am not. Look, guys, I am not God. Okay, I'm not God. I've done a lot of inner work. and I feel like I have a good connection with God, but it's really like thy will be done. It's not fucking me out here like I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. This is all like old world hierarchical structure stuff. It doesn't work that way. I do think that I have better DNA activation than many, but I think that people are going to catch up. We are entering into fields that are supporting these things. And I think I was called on a soul level to be here, like many others, hardly alone in this, really just a tiny corner, to be honest. But I was called down here to be like, hey, I need to, act as like a little bit of a field, a little bit of a beacon, a little nexus point to help facilitate this on a planetary scale. They basically fucked us up. They've hidden our potential because they want us to act like factory farmed animals. Okay, you put an animal on a factory farm, behaves very differently than an animal that's on the open range in the wild, right? It's big. It matters a lot. So we've been harvested for a long time. They don't want us to do anything, but they don't want us to think on these higher levels. They don't want us to gain access to divine. People are all like, well, what about, GPT-3, this AI? Come on. Like, it's really not that impressive. They give us this fucking phone. This fucking smartphone is supposed to be impressive. You have any idea what technology is being utilized by, first off, other people within the government, but second off, among humans that have activated DNA? That UFO craft you're seeing, most of them are operated by people who look like us. But they can do it because their mind is more developed. Their DNA is more developed that they can actually interact in a different level. The technology doesn't control them. When we talk about 5D, we're not talking about like disappear into the, source, whatever. We're talking about being connected to the source. Like you're like they wanted to plug us in to a fucking computer because that's the inversion agenda. And a lot of people have still bought it. They still think in this materialist terms. It's not true. We don't need that shit. We don't need it. Activate your DNA and you will work symbiotically with technology. There's not going to be any sort of agenda override. But they're trying to use technology, the cabal, they want to use technology as a control apparatus. That control apparatus keeps us in a slave state permanently. It's basically like right now, they've been farming us the old-fashioned way, and now they want to put us in like literally a machine that'll take care of it all for us. It's not happening. It's not going to work. It's against. The thing is that as we get bombarded with these galactic energies that are waking up our DNA, they're not able to keep us asleep, and so they lose power because their power is only really relative. They're not that big fish. That's the whole thing between God, little g, and God, big G. Big G, God, source, little g, God, cabal. But the cabal we're dealing with right now is kind of absurd. It's kind of absurd because the big fish have left. They're done. They're like, all right, fine. Because they operate on a different level themselves. And they're like, all right, fuck it. We're done with Earth. We're out of here. Yeah, we agree. Gigs up. Fine. So all these little fuckers that we see trying to like inaugurate Biden as president, it's like they're trying to accomplish an agenda without any real power behind it. That's why you don't feel any energy from them. They've lost their true source of energy because the smart ones on the higher levels understood it was, their rights to this planet had ended and it was time to give it up. But the underlings have no perspective like that. All they have is their control fantasies on this planet. And so they can't think big picture. The real, like, people who are controlling us were like, I'm selling this estate. I'll see you later. But, the employees don't come with you. So the employees are stuck here trying to run the company they no longer own. That's how it's working. That's really that's the analogy. And that's how evil operates. Those same fuckers are throwing their own loyal underlings to the wolves all time to protect themselves, but they've been thrown to the wolves. They've been thrown to the wolves themselves. So, to talk about this money stuff, okay, that was a big tangent. We got plenty of money. Money's not the issue. But the other thing is the quantum financial system. The current financial system is based on hierarchy. And so you see that you control finance, you control all money. But in quantum financial system, from how I understand it, a quantum financial system basically acknowledges the energetic output that you put into the system. So you don't have a parasitism that we have right now. So in a quantum financial system, the more you give, you don't have to be thinking about even so much how I'm going to charge, right? You have to think about that because in a quantum financial system, you receive what you're owed. You receive based on the impact that you made. So it basically, from what I understand it, it's uncharted territory. So I admit I'm speculating, and I'm also going to tell you guys, this is not coming out in 2021. We'd be lucky if it comes out in 5 years. It might be more like 10. Okay, I don't know how the timeline with it, but we are not ready. We're not quite ready for that. We have a lot of processing of this old world in the new world before we can move on to the fully into the new world without the baggage. I mean, after World War II, you could argue it took. You could argue. I mean, it certainly took a couple of years. You could argue it took all the way till the end of Korea to really process it. But it certainly took all of Truman's first term. It certainly took till 49 for us to really feel like we had moved a bit past World War II. So quantum financial system, another reason to be leave 3D, forget about the money. Because when you really believe in this quantum financial system, you understand how it works. People already get it. That's the whole gospel of wealth. Already understands that what you give, you get. But a quantum financial system codifies that without the control systems that exist to hijack it. Okay? Big finance is a hijacking control system. You understand? When that's taken away, you have a very, very pure, you give it, you get what you need back. Money will come to you, and the system will facilitate the flow of money. So let's see here. There are angels among us, no doubt. How has Trump stayed alive throughout all this? Well, if you have a quantum computer, and a quantum computer can tell you that if you do this, they will try to kill you here, then you can bypass it. Basically, you can bypass it. Uh-oh, we got a special guest. We got a special guest experience. This is Penelope. She's pretty cute. They're both pretty cute. They're both pretty cute. Thanks for the cameo, Kate. SG1, I think, is on Netflix now. Oh boy, I just lost my messages again, as usual. Ugh, keep glitching me with this. Hold on, guys. Trying to get my messages back. Someone just messaged me something so I can get it back. Just need a comment. All right, there we go. Thank you. I think it's back on Amazon Prime. It was on Amazon Prime, and then it got taken off Amazon Prime. Ancient gods, Aztecs, Egyptians, demons. Short answer is yes. That's the short answer, guys. Hate to break it to you. And also, Old Testament God too, from what I understand. Old Testament God. That's more complicated. Because there's different voices at different parts of the Old Testament. But yeah, there's a lot of hijacking of different traditions. I mean, To give you an idea, the Aztec sacrificed in a single day 56,000 people. That's sacrificing to a demonic entity, right? Sacrificing to a demonic entity. So let's see. I'm going to keep going down here. I don't know who Terence McKenna is. I know the name. I just don't recall. Just don't recall the details. Do you see genomics evolving with the light, curing all diseases, whatnot, by editing? Yeah, I mean, there are med beds, guys. We have med beds. Okay, you see them in science fiction. Where'd that idea come from? Okay, they exist. It already exists. It already exists. There are med beds that will cure people. Okay, there are med beds that will cure people of their diseases. Some people have it of the opinion that we won't die anymore, but the reincarnation wheel's been broken. Not that you won't come back if you die, but that you won't come back in the sort of sense the wheel that was created was like a false light hijacking. You kept getting thrown back into it over and over and over again. You couldn't escape from it. That's done. So maybe we are able to live longer. Maybe we get to start over. But from what I understand, starting over now, you're not going to be so detached from your prior memories. You'll be able to get access to them. So I don't know if it's strictly editing in the way that we look at editing today, but genomics are big. And maybe you guys recall back in May, I had like a ENTP moment where I was thinking maybe I'm going to go back to university and get a PhD in genetics. Well, first it was actually astronomy, but then I was like, maybe genetics is better because Philadelphia is huge for genetics, but not for astronomy, and I'm not leaving the area. And also, genetics would be better suited for me based on my mind. Like I'm not bad at math. I did very well in math, but yeah, I think that I'm more oriented towards life. So, but whatever, this doesn't matter. I'm not doing any of that stuff. There's no way. It's not what I'm called here to do. That's like I fell into 4D, and I was back in thinking like rationally. I should learn this. So yeah, why did they pick Biden as the guy? Well, I don't know why they picked him. Is it the same Biden? There's a lot of evidence here, guys. I'm going to say this, okay? What is controlled and what isn't depends on the perspective in which you're looking at it. And so, if we look at ETs, for instance, that are highly benevolent, okay, to the extent that they're in 5D, okay, they're humans that are in 5D and they're reclaiming Earth for the Galactic Federation, right? Maybe, let's say, then they're going to be operating at a level of awareness and competence that exceeds the cabal. And so while they would not be God, they would be operating in the service of God, right? And so what would happen if, from our perspective, they wanted to have a controlled demolition because they needed to wake the planet up? And so maybe they swooped people away and created some plants. I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm just saying I don't actually know. It's very tough to tell. What we can say for certain is that the Biden we're looking at is not the same Biden that existed literally 1 year ago. People are like, well, how old was that photo of Biden? It was a year ago. Okay? You can tell it's a completely different person. When they're sending their clones, they're not sending their best. But the question is the real Biden hiding in some fucking cabal base and we're seeing the clone because he doesn't want to be the one he doesn't want to be hit himself? Or are we looking at some sort of white hat thing where there's been a controlled demolition? It's hard to say exactly, but everything's going according to plan. So I think all these things can be true depending on how you look at them. Do I think there was a contract between archons, demiurge, etc., and god angels? Again, this is another perspective question. On a certain level, we need evil to understand good. On a certain level, evil is a great teacher. For instance, we could say that if it was not for the cabal, we would not be waking up. We could say that on a certain level, because if the cabal was not trying to control us, we would not understand that we were being controlled. So we would not awake to our power. And this is the nature of polarity on a high level, is that a lot of priests actually say this, exorcists, like the special forces of the church, okay? They will say very directly that demons will either cure the patient or kill them, basically. They're kind of like a virus. They kind of operate in that mindset. And they will force an individual, like they only come in when there's a weakness, right? You notice that viruses only seem to come into the picture when the weather goes down, the weather gets colder, right? When your energy field depletes. Viruses are vectors, and they're probably synthetic vectors, by the way. The Archon thing's a separate conversation, but the Archons are from what I've understood, Archons might be from a separate universe. And they came here, and that the reptilians have been mostly hijacked by the Archons. You can get really down the rabbit hole here, guys. It's tough to figure out what's truth and what's not. But suffice to say, they operate in similar means in that they will attempt to harvest your energy. Okay, they'll attempt to harvest your energy, but they can't really. In the end, they cure you of what ails you. Because if you lose the demon, then you had to lose what caused the demon to enter into you. You had to have some sort of revelation. And only the demon, by triggering you, do you heal, right? Liam Gallagher. I don't know who that is either. Let's keep going here. Crypto. So crypto has something here. Crypto is relevant. We can talk about one other thing before I head out here. I'm not gonna talk about it much because I don't really know what's going on. But Austin Steinbart seems to be entering the conversation again. He's been in jail for a while, and now we have this kind of thing where Austin's back, and a lot of people are telling me Austin's Q again. And look, I don't know. I don't know if he's Q. I always said he was involved. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he's a good person. I think he is probably part of the plan. Personally, I think he's part of the plan. I can tell you that many things that Austin Steinbart has said have been 100% true. Ripple currency, there's tons of shit Austin said, all true. Okay, Ripple's not like the big deal thing now, but Ripple has been growing in relevance. Austin in March said Ripple would be the sort of new Swift system for financial transactions. And now it's looking like it might go that direction. And that's crazy. I mean, you have to have insider knowledge. So you either have to say that Austin was on the inside and went rogue, or you have to say that Austin was in the inside and he's playing a role. That's only things that you can say. So Austin Steinbart, I don't know what the story is, but I haven't seen him really say anything of note in a long time. And I can tell you personally, I'm less convinced he's Q. But I'm not ruling out that he's relevant at all. I'm just not really convinced that he's Q. I think Q more and more is a team of people working under a quantum computer. And if Austin was DIA, he would be privy to things that Q would be releasing. And so it would be easy for him to say some things that would make him look like Q. Also, however, he may have done that not because he was bad, but because he had to do that as a disinformation. So it's really tough to know exactly what's going on. And I think we should all just keep an open mind. I appreciate all the positive comments with the little baby. I read or listen. I read or listen. The book says our days are numbered not to be more than 120 years. Yes, but again, ask yourself, why are we numbered in that amount? Is that because we've been modified for our DNA to automatically shut us off at 120 years, absent all negative variables? Is that the reason why? I mean, we engineer all sorts of animals. Not so much at this point in the the gene splicing, but we've bred animals to serve certain purposes. So what would stop them from doing the same thing for us, basically? You know? I think that the big indictment against factory farming is that it mimics us and how we've been treated. And so if we act like we're okay with it, then we are okay with our own treatment. And I understand that right now there's some practical arguments we have to deal with because we can't just not have food produced for people. But we have to think in 5D, we have to think outside the box. I feel that. I don't have any books on it. I don't have any books on quantum computing. Frankly, a lot of it's not really open to the public. Mostly people on YouTube that's saying these things. What do I think of Mike Pence taking the vaccine? Well, you guys know what I said, right? You guys know what I said last Periscope. Pre-baby. I'm not. Pence might be deep undercover. Let's put it that way. So let's see. We've now got the Senate Majority Leader released. We'll see, when does Pence himself, does he, does he flip? I don't know. Let me tell you guys, logically, I see no reason why Pence would be bad. But something tells me that there's something there. Something just isn't right. He's a little too compliant. He's a little too compliant. And he was connected to too many of these people beforehand, He was really in with the Paul Ryan kind of crew. So something tells me he might be deep undercover, and we'll see what happens. Look, don't ask me about buying crypto. Gotta have like $500 in crypto. It's not like 2,000, but Q is meant multi-purpose, and I'm gonna finish up after these questions. Q was meant to be. It's a psyop. It's a white hat psyop. It's meant to basically disperse information to the public, to create an army of digital soldiers which will spread information, back-channeled, seed enlightenment to the masses, and to act as a resilient point where that's pretty much inoculated against demoralization campaigns. Now, Q is filled with disinformation, and Q even says disinformation is necessary because Q also says, which is fucking obvious, that they're watching the boards. So anytime that information is disseminated to the public, it means that it's going to be intercepted. And so you have to simultaneously give the correct energy and trajectory awareness to regular digital soldiers so that they can spread the truth and spread enlightenment and spread hope, while at the same time not disclosing confidential military intelligence operations. And so there's kind of a fun thing here where people in Q will attempt to decode, and they're almost always wrong. Like, I think 99 out of 100 times they're wrong. But it gives them that kind of like 1 out of 100 times where they're right. It actually increases more investment. And so it works in multi-purpose because it confuses the enemy, because the enemy looks at the key things and they think, well, is this real? And here's the thing with this information. When somebody tells you, we're going to do this on this day, or they're going to give an obvious marker. You can say they're probably not going to do that, but fuck, I can't ignore that now. So then they have to expend resources to try to cover for the information that's been put out that's supposed to happen on that day. And so what you get is a situation where Q, they hate Q because Q not only does all that sort of awakening stuff, but it forces them to expend ammunition all the time on things that don't materialize. Because if you are a general and you're told report just came in that they're going to attack us on the side, then you can't just say, well, you say they're probably not going to do that, but I have to still put some resources there just in case. Because if I don't, then we lose completely. And this is the paradox of knowns and unknowns. So Q is brilliant. It's a brilliant intelligence operation. It checks multiple boxes. Yeah, it's a fucking psyop. People are like, Q's a psyop. They're like, yeah, it's a fucking psyop. What do you fucking think? But psyops are not always bad, right? People are very programmable, and you can program them positively or negatively. And frankly, I see a lot of fucking people who don't like Q who are fucking demoralized very, very easily. And Q people aren't. They just roll with it. So ask yourself, which is better? I guess we'll find out, right? Maybe we're being lied to. Who knows? Who knows? So look, I think that's it for today. We'll talk more about this soon. Talk more about it Monday. I think we're going to get some big drops Monday, so it should be a fun Periscope. Guys, I love you. I appreciate the love that you give to me. Enjoy these last couple of days of Pisces. Next time we meet, we will meet in the new world. Good night.